Okay, so today our guest is Mr. Parth Acharya. He is a senior product manager for Alexa Smart Home from Amazon. He has previously worked as a product manager for almost 7 years at Dell Technologies, and today he'll be talking about uh, product management 101 with a focus on the four pillars of the product management. Thank you, Parth, for joining with us today. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat and he'll be answering them at the end of the session. Over to you, Parth.
Thank you for the introduction. Super excited to be here with all of you. As Pooja just shared, my goal here is to really talk about product management, basics of it, 101. And then my hope is if some of these basics are helpful, we can eventually build upon it. I would love to come back and talk more about each individual topics in more details and kind of grow this engagement and community that we have got going on. So with that, let me ask Pooja and Amlan both, am I good to go? Are we waiting on anyone else? Or should we just begin?
We are good to go, Parth. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. We'll spend quick 10 seconds doing a tech check. Let me know if you all can see my screen. It should be saying Product Management 101. Okay, cool, awesome. All right, so today we are going to talk about really basics of product management. And the way I want this interactions to work is like you can either post questions in chat as we go, or feel free to pause me at any point. If you have any questions, we can make this interactive. Or largely speaking, if we do have time at the end, which I think we'll have plenty of, we can really open up for questions and answers and discussions in general about any of the topics that we cover today. If throughout the sessions, if you want to make notes or just note down questions to ask at the end, feel free to do so as well if you don't want to post them on chat along with the talk. All right, so with that said, let's talk about first, what do product managers do, right? What does that role really entail? And it really revolves around four factors, right? You got product managers who really drive vision, strategy, design, and execution of any product. And by the way, just give me 1 sec. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna use a different monitor so it doesn't feel like I am looking somewhere else. All right. So yeah, so at the end of the day, product managers are really looking at these four things for their products. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at each of these pillars. What does it mean to have a vision for a product? Strategy, what does it mean to have a thought process around design and execution? But along with that, we'll also talk about what do product managers really own, right? And who are the product managers, right? So we'll cover all of that as well, so that we do not strictly talk about like the duties that they do, but also the role that they play in any company or organization. So let's first dive into all of these four pillars. First one being vision, right? So let's go through this vision. And as I said, feel free to like type out response to my question in chat. So let's say for this vision, like someone saying in this future, energy will be cheap, abundant, sustainable. People will work in harmony with intelligent machines and even merge with them, and humans will become an interplanetary species. I'm gonna like wait for like 10 seconds if anyone can guess like which product or portfolio could this vision be aligned with. And there are like feel free to make any guesses, right? This is just a conversation.
SpaceX maybe?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So we are talking about Tesla, SpaceX, and SolarCity. But really the overall message here is that a vision can be as ambitious as you want. The idea for the vision is to really drive your team towards a definite North Star that, hey, here is what we want to do, or here is what we want the world to be like. Right. So as long as you can arrive upon that conclusion for your product or feature, you would be able to get to a vision, right? And really coming up with good vision takes a lot of time, right? Because you're not thinking what we'll do 1 month later, 1 quarter later, 1 year later. So for defining vision, it's also completely fair for you to really speak with your counterparts in engineering, design, leadership, and so on to come up with the right set of criteria for your vision on your product. Next is strategy, right? So let's talk about someone else. This person is saying the next platform will be even more immersive, an embodied internet where you are in the experience, not just looking at it. We call this metaverse, and it will be touching every product we build. Now, this is pretty recent, but if you do want to make a guess, who could this be?
Meta.
Yes, this is Meta. This is Zuckerberg. So this is really coming from a point of view of strategy. While you'll see like sprinkles of vision, but what really Zuckerberg is calling out here is that, okay, if in Web 1 we had really read and write capabilities in internet, right? Someone will write a piece of content, you will read it. Web 2 came in where we are now able to generate content as users ourselves and posting pictures on Instagram and sending messages on WhatsApp. The next generation of internet will be Web 3, where content creator and owner and reader, they could all be decentralized. And this is what the platform Facebook wants to go towards. Now, this is a clear strategy in terms of, okay, what could next decade look like for the company? And that's where the positioning of strategy comes from. And we'll talk about like how it really applies to your product management role, what you'll do at feature level or product level to apply these. But I wanted to really start with examples of what's a good vision, what's a good strategy, and so on. Next, let's talk about design. And let's talk about this code. Like design isn't just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. If anyone has to make a guess, who would this be?
Tim Cook.
I missed that. What was that?
It's Steve Jobs, right?
Yes, it is. It is Steve Jobs. It is Apple, where a product can come from the position of, okay, we'll go design first. We'll figure out technology later, right? I want my experience to look as premium as it can be, and across all of my product portfolio, right? That's where you can come in and say, hey, you know what? I don't want design to dictate like just how things look and feel, but how I interact with machines, right? So this is a good example of you building design first company or design first product. And then lastly, an example of execution, like what's a good execution, right? And then the quote really goes like, hey, ideas have very little value in businesses, and what turns out to have huge value is execution. In general, ideas are easy. It's the execution that's hard. Now, to be honest, this could be many companies today, but one company that is really winning on execution with very low margin is this example from. So if you have to guess, who could it be?
Amazon?
Yes, that's exactly right. This is from Jeff Bezos' 1998 shareholder letter. By the way, I'll recommend everyone to read his shareholder letters. He sends out every year, and they are so good in describing how to run business, how to run product, how to think customer first. So yeah, this is an example of an execution first product that you can approach for your whatever you own. So like these are just like 4 pillars, and I wanted to start with like good examples, like where like you raise your bar really high in terms of what could good design-led product, execution-led product, vision and strategy-led product looks like. What we do want to jump in next is really talk about what do product owners own, right? So when someone says, hey, do you want to be a product manager? The question really arises from the fact that, okay, what would it really mean? Like, what will I be managing, right? When the title says product manager, or if you come across product owners, the question could be, okay, what do I really own as a product owner? And it could be any of these things, right? You could have a feature, you could have a set of features, you could own like a product suite, which is collection of several feature sets, or even like as you grow in your career, you could have a portfolio of product, right? Like simple examples, like a like button on YouTube, like that's an example of feature. Like if you are a product manager at YouTube responsible for all the interactions on the like button, you would be kind of dictating that, okay, is my solution for liking and dislike scalable? Are there other interactions that I want to introduce? For example, like Facebook and LinkedIn now has not only like button, but also haha and cry emoji and all that, right? So as a feature owner for this like dislike button at YouTube, these are the kind of things you would be thinking about. If you think feature set, you could take this as an example, like all the engagement feature that exists on a YouTube video. Like when you hear like, share, and subscribe to my video, like what they are really talking about is that, okay, these are the 3 ways you can engage with me. And as a product owner for these features, like all the strategies and thought process that you'll be driving across any of those 4 pillars, design, strategy, vision, and execution, could revolve around this. As you grow, you can also end up owning a product suite. Like in this example, we are looking at YouTube Studio. On left panel, you'll see dashboard features like content and playlist features, analytics, comment analytics, and so on. At this point, as you grow, in your career, you will be ending up owning larger scope, working cross-functionally with a lot more teams, and have a lot more dependencies to manage. So that is what you could own as well. And then lastly, like as you grow even further in product career path, you could own a portfolio of product, right? Not just YouTube, but you have got YouTube Studio, YouTube Music, YouTube Advertising, Premium, and so on, right? So I just wanted to kind of carve out, like if a lot of times when someone reaches out to me and asks, okay, what's the difference between product management and project management? Like what would be the career growth and career trajectory? It really revolves around the fact that, okay, as an entry-level product manager or an APM, you could start with like smaller feature set, but as you grow, your scope of ownership also grows. And this is the usual trajectory it goes towards, right? In terms of career trajectory, yeah, you could be looking like a VP of product, a CTO, and eventually if product is really doing well and the company is really honing on its product capabilities, then even CEOs, right? So at this point, what I do want to do is really take a pause, right? And really open up for any questions, at least for 5 minutes before we go into our next section, which is like, who is a product manager, right? We really dive into different personas, different hats that you would end up wearing as a product manager. But before we do that, let me pause. Any questions, thoughts, reflections? Feel free to come on camera, unmute, or if you want to just type in the question in chat, that is also fine. No questions are bad questions. So yeah, feel free to ask anything based on what we have covered so far. Okay, looks like I am conveying things very clearly, or either that or you all already knew that, one of the two. All right, so let's talk about who is a product owner. What we're going to talk about now is really, as I said, different hats that you'll end up wearing. What we're going to go through also differs based on the organization that you are in, the size of the company, and the culture in general. But largely, it will hold true at any point in time across any product role that you will be owning. So first one, who is the product manager? You are really a CEO of the product. Now, this may look like an exaggeration to an extent, given you will always be responsible for your stakeholders, your customers, your leadership, and so on. But at the end of the day, the kind of skill set that you'll be required to use with wearing this kind of hat is like you want to be able to lead without authority. You want to be able to influence how your organization thinks about a product, especially when you want them to go in a specific direction. You may be contributing to like budgeting conversations that, hey, this year we had budget worth of 10 engineers and we could build so much. Next year we want to be taking on a larger scope or larger roadmap, and this is how much it will cost. But at the end of the day, what makes you a CEO of the product as a product manager is the fact that the buck stops at you, right? If there is a feature decision to be made, the buck stops at you whether we should build this feature or not. If there is a critical decision to be made whether to take solution A versus solution B, the buck could stop at you. If you have to really decide upon design as well, of course you'll be working with your designer counterparts. You would again be responsible for making those calls, and at the end of the day, as I said, the buck stops at you, and that's what makes you the CEO of the product. So that's one kind of role you would play. The second kind of role you'd play is a role of a coach, right? You'd be really having to learn the engineering team that you are working with. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Which team members work well with each other? While making sure that you are aware of the goal at the hand, right? Sometimes you'll be inspiring your team members. Sometimes you'll be taking them out for a happy hour after a successful launch. But at the very core of it, in this role or with wearing this hat, your job is to really inspire your team members to build towards whatever vision that you come up with for your product, right? And you'd be doing a lot of this in your role, especially as you grow in your career as product manager. Being a CEO, of course, of the product is important, but then transforming into being a coach as and when needed is extremely important. Third one is engineer. This doesn't mean you'd be sitting down and writing code. I'm a terrible programmer, so my engineers for sure do not want me to code. But you want to be able to speak the same language as your engineers. You want to be able to have enough skill set to be able to like draw boxes and arrows, like here is how systems are interacting with each other so that customers can eventually see this or that. You want to be aware of the fact that it's not magic behind the scene, right? It's an actual piece of working code that engineers have written. And you want to have a knack for figuring things out, right? So this that calls out like DNA of a hacker, but at the end, what it's really highlighting is the fact that sometimes your engineers will need help from you in terms of figuring out, okay, a specific system or service is not available to make this experience work. What do we do? And that's when you kind of step in and do necessary research and be equal partner to your designers and engineers. Next role you will play is of janitor. And this is not a joke. This is very true. There will be a lot of things that no one wants to do. And as a product owner, you would end up wanting to own that or end up having to deal with it, right? Imagine there is a product release day after tomorrow and your tester is sick. What are you going to do? You're not going to push the release, right? You're going to get your hands dirty and test your product end to end and make sure it ships. You sometimes will have no support for like business intelligent engineers or data analysts. At that point, you shouldn't mind sitting down, writing a piece of query and figuring out, okay, this is the data that will help my product argument become stronger. You would most likely be triaging like tens or hundreds of bugs that may come your way, either from your customers, clients, stakeholders, or dependencies. No one else would be there to do that. So yeah, you would be responsible or wearing this janitor hat, so to call. And then lastly, you would also be playing a traffic cop. That is to say, like not all problems or all problem statement may be related to or pertaining to your product or the feature that you own. At those points, you want to be able to have enough awareness to call out, okay, someone else can fix this issue, or I can route this issue to a different team or org or different product owner. And you'll be able to help get to the point where the customer issue is resolved, which is where you are essentially playing a traffic cop. So yeah, this is another hat that you end up wearing as a product manager. And like there are days or weeks where you end up doing this kind of work a lot more than other kind of work, and that's completely expected and fine, depending on the fact that okay, you do want to ship a product out and at high quality. Next one is hammer. Now, this is sometimes the most difficult to acquire as a brand new product manager, but as you grow in your career, this becomes much more natural and intuitive, right? You want to be able to turn no into yes. You want to also be able to say no very respectfully and drive the product in the direction you really want it to go. You really want to blend data into your arguments. You want to blend facts with opinions, logic with emotion, as I'm saying on the deck. But what it really is calling out that you need to have a certain amount of conviction in your product, and it comes with time. Like in first 6 months of a job as a new product manager with new product, of course, that conviction or building your opinions is going to take time. But you want to get to a place where selectively becoming a hammer to drive decisions and resolutions for a product becomes very natural for you. So this is like one more hat you end up wearing. And as I said, like you'd be doing all of this that I have described so far and more that I'm yet to talk about every day in and out, depending upon what kind of situation role you are in. Next one is super user. Now this really depends, like calling out the fact that there should be no greater user of the product than you as a product owner. Meaning you want to get to a point where you have used your product enough so that you can have empathy for your customers. When you receive feedback from your customers, you are not only able to look at what has occurred in past, but also correlate that with your future and vision in general. You want to be super detail oriented and care about quality in general, and that will come when you really start seeing yourself as super user, right? For example, like in my current role, I started dealing with AI assistants for the first time, in this case Alexa, and all my prior experience had to do with e-commerce. So yeah, for first like at least 3 to 5 months, all I did was like just really interact with Alexa in all different ways, try to break things, really figuring out what is working, not working. Do participate in a lot of beta. Like even if a different product owner in different org is trying to test some feature out, you raise your hand and say, hey, I can help you test it. But like those are the kind of things that you really incorporate on your day-to-day work life, so that one, as I said, you start building opinion towards your product, but at the same time you grow as a super user for your product. So this is about just being obsessed with your product. Then is Inventor. Before we talk about like next few hats you'll wear, what I want to do again is really pause and open up for any question, reflection, thoughts. Going once, going twice, going thrice. Okay. All right, cool. So in another kind of hat that you'll end up wearing is that of inventor as a product owner. Like not just in terms of like building unique products or building brand new experiences, but also inventor in form of simplifying processes, reducing cultural gaps, interpersonal gaps. Like you want to be looking for inventive solutions towards those problems, as well as solutions for the product that you own. A lot of times what will happen is that you won't have like a precedence. You'll run into a decision-making problem, and like that problem may not have been solved before. You're going to have to figure out, okay, how do I address this problem? You at this point do want to leverage ideas from your team, your designers, your engineers, your leaderships, your peers in product management teams. And it's completely okay for you to not only invent your own ideas and come up with your own ideas, but also be good miner of your team's ideas, right? You want to be able to fostering those relationship and sessions where people can come to you and share their ideas, which you can build upon and invent things. A lot of times what will also happen is that like you may have data to make a decision, but a lot of times you may not have any data to base your decision on. In those situations, you're going to have to make judgment calls that, okay, should I put a new add to cart button on the home page, or should I just put it where customer is looking at all the product description, right? And those are the unprecedented problem statements that you could be facing for which you may not have any data. So like a lot of those times, you would end up having to wear an inventor hat and figure out, okay, these are the judgments I'm making in absence of or in existence of all the information that I have available to me. You would also have to sometimes become a host. Now, what does that mean? There is such a thing as over PMing, right? Doing too much product management. You don't want to do that. Sometimes you do want the problems and teams to come to you and seek help. You want to learn when to disappear. But at the core of it, your goal is to really maximize on your engineer's time, maximize on your designer's time. And you will be super tempted to go out and help whoever is needing help. But over time, what you'll end up having to learn is that, okay, you know what, I'm going to disappear and let teams do their thing. And will let them come to me when there is a problem that I need to solve. But yeah, this is what this role is talking about, really getting out of people's way, let them do their stuff and be available always to help them out. Lastly, you are your product. Now, what does this mean? Your product is really sum of all the decisions that you took along the way to build the product that you really have out in market. It is everything that you have done over the course of weeks, quarters, years to come to a place where your product is now shipped. Like the most faithful representation of yourself as a product manager is your product. So you do want to put your best foot out in terms of recognizing yourself through the product that you have put out in market. So what I would really share is that like all the things that I shared over the last few minutes in terms of things you would be as a product manager, that will continue to apply. But as you enter a product manager role or grow in product manager role, you will discover your own new roles, own new hats, and that's completely fine because each of our journey as a product manager is unique to each of us as well as each product. That's all I had. I planned for about 30 minutes of chat and then 30 minutes for Q&A. But before we talk about how you can reach out to me, let me again pause and really open up for questions, conversations, discussions. And as I said, like if you don't have any questions, that's completely fine. Just to have a conversation, right? Let this be as organic as it can be.
Hey, Parth, let me go first then. So, quick question. So I come from a slightly different background. I come from a mechanical engineering background, and I've been in that field. So and I did see quite a bit of your program management and your product management was in design per se. How easy is that transition per se? Now that I'm doing my full-time MBA and I'm trying to make that transition over to product management as a role, and how hard it is in a technology transition. Is it do I need to have certain skills that I previously don't possess from mechanical which don't directly translate over?
Yeah, let's tackle that. I am I captured two questions, Harish, and let me know if I got them right. Question number one was, how do you really translate or transform from a project manager kind of roles into product manager? And the second question I heard you ask was, really with someone like mechanical engineering background, how do you enter into technology product management? Did I get both the questions?
The second one was what more of my question was, not primarily the first one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, a short answer is I wouldn't say it is easy, but it is not unprecedented. I have come across a lot of people from different background, be it mechanical engineering, computer science, or even arts and creatives who would enter product management and really excel, right? And not just enter, but really do great. In these kind of scenarios, what you want to focus on is, okay, what skill set do you really bring to the table? And then what's the right product person fit, right? So in your case, if your background is mechanical engineering, and if you are still passionate and interested in it, you can find products, technology products that heavily rely upon mechanical engineering, right? And really excel there. So like that's one way to approach it. But let me pause there. I see you unmuted. Any reflections?
Okay, I mean, it kind of, I mean, it makes sense. Though my only question, I mean, would be like, is there something that that be common regardless of the role per se, in the technology space versus that's common to all these roles? I mean, like, as you said, this in a mechanical product management versus technology product management. Would that still be some hard skills that I still need to acquire per se?
No, there will be. So one, like when I said you can go into technology product management, which where you can really use your mechanical engineering skills. For example, let's talk about autonomous cars, right? Like autonomous cars use a ton of software, and right now they're gonna need a lot of product managers to solve for a very hard problem. Imagine someone coming in with like arts and science versus someone like you who'd come in as with skills of a mechanical engineer. You could definitely add a lot more value in those kind of tech products, leveraging, of course, whatever you learn through your MBA program, as well as your mechanical engineering background. So it may all really boil down to finding the right product fit for the skills you bring. But having said that, it is completely okay, and there are a lot of precedents for people with different backgrounds to really jump into product management and do well. This is one area where, like, just being able to empathize and speak for your customers is sufficient, as long as you kind of gain all the skill set and personality traits that we just talked about over the last 30 minutes.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have a question for you, Parth. So regarding the technical product manager interviews and everything, when a technical case study is thrown at us, how detailed of an explanation or an answer should we give? Like, do we stop at defining the metrics and like determining the requirements and the product vision, or like should we go into the technical complexity as well, like defining the hardware and the software we'll be using for the product?
Yeah, so you would usually run into two different kind of interviews. One is where you've got a case study. Another is where you have got case study plus system design. I think your question pertains to the second one. So where you end up in technical rounds as an aspiring product manager, even before you go to technology, even in technical rounds, by the way, I'm like, even if the round is specifically called system design, before you go there, what you really want to approach first is what would customer or end user gain out of this, right? This is where you can exercise some of the questions, like who is going to use this feature, or who is going to use the product? Is this product going to be a citywide product, nationwide product, a global product? like you want to really start with that customer first model and ask questions back. Like, for example, if someone comes to you and says, um, uh, build me a car washing system or car washing reservation system where people can reserve their time slots for washing their car. At that point, like it may be very tempting to really get into system design and talk about all the technical stuff that you have got to share. But what you really want to do is really pause and ask them, okay, is this car washing franchisee citywide or is it nationwide? That will help you decide, okay, how much scale you'll have to speak about. You'll have to ask that, okay, for this system or software, is it just going to be my customers who will end up using it to reserve slots? Or will you also have some administrator behind the scene to open up slots and make new car wash locations available and so on? That way, beyond scale, you'll also define who the user persona is that you are building for. The next thing you want to do right after that is articulate what the customer experience is going to be like. So again, even before you go into technical design and system design, you first like just spend like 30 to 60 seconds talking about, hey, here is what the customer experience will look like, and this is what I'm building for. What that will help you do is you will set really clear context as to how much are you going to build and showcase. And at that point, yeah, you can really tailor out like what you are really comfortable with. Right? If you're not comfortable with database representation and like caching mechanisms and queuing mechanisms and all those architectural concepts, that's completely fine because you would be building for the customer experience you defined in that round and say, hey, here is what I'm going to go for. But yeah, from that point on, like it can just become question answer, a conversation that, hey, this is what I have built. What do you think could be missing?
Got it. Thank you for answering that.
Yep.
I think we have one more question in the chat. Pooja, do you want to read it out?
Sure, yeah. So Subhashini is asking, like, when we talk about being a product manager for a product, say for Alexa, do we see one product manager or a couple of PMs who are taking care of each important feature and working together to make the product work for the customers?
Yeah. So the short answer is, yeah, you got a ton of product managers for something as vast or complex as Alexa. Like, of course, you can turn on lights and lock doors by talking to your smart assistant, but you can also call someone or drop in on a different home or send a message or really build routines and automations, like every day on sunset, turn on my lights automatically without me saying anything. So really, if I were to make this question even more generic, I would say, yeah, you ideally want a product owner for each substantial scope that needs at least 6 to 8 engineers, right? So for each 6 to 8 engineers, you do want to have at least one product manager to write product requirements, define vision and strategy so that you can maximize on your engineers' time and capabilities. Right. So in case of Alexa or in case of any product, let's say you have got like 100 engineers for your organization, you would want to appropriate number of product managers accordingly. And in terms of really collaborating with each other, yes, to an extent, a product manager role could be isolating during some part of the year where you are figuring out the budget and right things to build next year and executing on things coming up next week. But in other scenarios, while you are defining roadmap for your entire organization or you have dependency on a different feature, you're going to be working with product managers. Like, for example, today, you can talk to Alexa and tell her that, hey, talk to doorbell, right? At that point, Alexa will open up your Ring doorbell and you can have conversation with whoever is visiting your home. Now, the feature that showcases the doorbell camera on your Alexa device could be owned by a different product manager. The conversation that is enabled between you and a visitor at your home could be owned by a different product manager, because that is also a large enough scope. And in order to enable this end-to-end feature, yeah, you would be working with other peer product managers in your team or outside of your team.
Got it. So does anybody else have any other questions?
Hi, Parima here. I have a question. So, what are the challenges you face when moving from an e-commerce to a product-based or AI-based product manager role?
So some of the fundamentals, some of the basic things of a product manager role, like I was telling Harish, remains constant regardless of the type of product you own. The things that we went through right now, right? Different hats you would be wearing, different pillars you would be combating. All those things will remain as is, meaning your day-to-day stuff and the kind of role you will play will not change. But let's talk about challenges. Like the basic kind of challenge you'll face while going from one kind of product to another kind of product is really just domain, right? If it's a brand new domain, it will take you a few months to figure out, okay, what are all different components involved in making a simple thing such as Alexa turn on the lights work, right? Really the core challenge revolves around the domain, and it all really boils down to how quickly you ramp up on new products. And this comes with time, right? If you are a new product owner or really getting into product management for the first time, that ramp up period may be longer. But as you grow in your career, any new product being thrown your way, your ramp up time eventually shortens. What really helps really shorten your ramp up time is seeing anything and everything that you do in your day-to-day life as a product, right? For example, you wake up when your alarm goes off on your iPhone. Now, the alarm system on iPhone is a product. You start seeing it as a product. When you set alarms, you'll be questioning them that, hey, why are they giving me a list of all different times when Apple should know I wake up between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Why are they giving me a wake up time for noon that I could turn on? Those are the questions you start asking. Like next thing you know is you are using your, I don't know, electric toothbrush, which is connected to your phone via Bluetooth, and it informs you that, okay, this is how much time you spent brushing your teeth today. That too is a product. But the larger point I'm trying to drive is that you start looking at anything and everything as a product. You think about things that you could improve in that experience. What could make your lives better is what going to help you shorten the ramp up time anytime you jump into a new product.
Okay, thanks for your answer.
Okay, and we have another question in the chat from Subhash. He's asking like how much of your product manager skills did you acquire via on-the-job training versus something that you acquired via a graduate degree? And his second part of the question is, are these specific skills that one should look to acquire as part of the MBA degree?
Yeah. There are, so let me not talk about like product skills that are acquired, or maybe I'll talk about it. But there are three major things that I took away from my graduate degree, which I was able to apply to my job. One, as a product manager, you would be exercising your interpersonal skills a lot more than any other role. That could be in form of verbal communications, written communications, emails, meetings. Like your primary job will be to communicate your ideas in different format and structures. In grad school, really honing on to whatever opportunities you get through student organizations like these ones or different ones where you can really exercise those skills is going to be very, very valuable. Like I intentionally made a point to go and become president of like entrepreneurship club so that I could really acquire those skills. I had no idea I'm going to become a product manager, but like those are the things I knew I'll have to acquire as part of grad degree. A second thing that I acquired from my time at UTD was really a good understanding of system design. Again, I didn't know I'm going to go into product management back then. My goal was to do data science and become data analyst. Both my internships were all about data and not about product management. But being able to understand how systems or computers interact with each other, how humans interact with systems, like those are the skills you do want to learn. I do not remember the course name. It's been nearly a decade, but that was a good course on system design and project management, which I took, and I found it super valuable. But beyond that, the last and third thing that I really valued from grad school was network, right? I think the actual skill set that you'll need at your work, you'll truly learn at your job, because each company, each organization, each team, each manager is different, and you're going to have to really adapt to it. But like what really helped out and really was something that I could count on was the network that I built along the way. And I don't know if that directly answers your first question, because these are not truly like skills that I acquired from a coursework that I took at grad school, but really the experiences that I honed into at my time at UTD, which eventually helped. Your part two. Let me ask a quick question. So when you say specific skills that you could acquire as part of MBA degree plan, specific skills for product management or in general? Okay, I am going to assume, let's say product management, right? So specific skills for product management. Okay, perfect. So what I would really recommend, and I know you all are super busy, sometimes it is extremely hard to accommodate new things or more things beyond your coursework and exams and assignments. But if you do want to break into product management, what I would recommend is build a product. And when I say build a product, I'm referring to a simple fact that you could build any basic thing like a notepad application. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It doesn't have to be unique. But what it will help you do is, in this example, you'll have to sit down and write like one page of all the product requirements that your notepad application should be able to do for your customers. It will force you to decide, okay, how should I prioritize my requirements in a way that I tackle my high priority requirements before my low priority requirements. It will force you to think about, okay, what's the impact of each feature or each requirement that I'm writing in this piece of paper, right? Like saving a note is more important than formatting a note with like color coding, right? And those are the decisions you'll end up making. Once you do that much of exercise, what it will do is it will make you feel very much comfortable about the fact that, okay, you know what, I can think from customer point of view. I have obsession for what my customers should be able to do. I have empathy for all their problem statements that I'm trying to solve through this notepad app. And then you have two options. Like you can either go ahead and like speak to your peers in engineering department, or you can find a freelancer, right? On some freelancing app and say, hey, can you give like 3 hours of your time and help me build this, right? And you don't have to do that second part. And I understand all the challenges and business involved in that. But if you do pursue that, what it will help you also see through is that, okay, how do you do go to market for a small scale application? How do you do marketing for your application? Once you put your product out, you're going to you can absolutely put it in hands of your friends and seek feedback. once you seek feedback, you can also then iterate upon new set of requirements and say, hey, yeah, I could change this or that in my Notepad application, and this is what the next version could look like. Having said all of that, of course, you can acquire whatever skills that your MBA degree or coursework can help you with. Just following these smaller exercises on side will help a lot more set of contexts around what product managers do, how you go through ideation to shipping the product, and then seek feedback to repeat the cycle. And it doesn't have to be done like within a week or within a month. Like you can take as much time as you need, given everything else you have got going on. But like this kind of exercise will absolutely build the muscle you will need to pursue a product manager role, or even speak to your interviewer to say, hey, this is what I did alongside my MBA degree. Does that answer the question, Makarand? Did that help? Okay, cool, awesome.
Okay, so I have one more question here. So we all know about the Amazon's famous 14 leadership principles. So among those, like what are the ones that are like mainly needed or looked for when they're interviewing for product managers?
Right. So like this is the kind of question you do want to ask your recruiter. And the reason why you want to ask your recruiter this question is because it's possible each organization, each team may have bias towards specific principles. For example, if an organization is building a brand new product with no precedence, they may, and I'm just making it up, they may care more about invent and simplify. They may care about dive deep versus a different principle. Some organization may care about disagree and commit, have backbone. So like it really depends upon the organization and the product you are really pursuing, and it's completely fine for you to ask that, hey, does the recruiter have any idea what this organization care about? And sometimes they may be able to share, sometimes it's very generic that they may not have an answer. But in a product role, you will most likely be exercising all 14 principles at some point. And I will in fact go ahead and say that these are not just principles for interview sake. Like these are principles that get used in day-to-day meetings every day. Like when we are trying to come to a decision or resolve a conflict or find the right path forward or doing a retrospective. In all of these like day-to-day conversations, we do bring up these principles and talk about it and really help all of ourselves come to the same page around where we are going and where we have been.
Got it. Okay, so any more questions?
Yeah, and yeah, like as the trend is going, like feel free to ask about Amazon, Alexa, product manager in general. It doesn't have to be pertaining to what I just shared with a deck, right? It can be even generic product questions. My goal is to figure out like what kind of future conversations will this group benefit from, and we can tailor it accordingly. And I would love to kind of come back and do more of these as well. So any questions or fair questions? Yes, so let's talk about how you can connect with me. So of course you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That should be easy to find. You don't have to like remember this link. I am also on Jindal Connect. So if you are using any of those mentorship portals, you can find me there. I have also, last quarter, I've also spun off a student group on Jindal Connect called, I think I'm calling it product group, lack of invention in that name. But you can like post things there. You can ask me questions there, or like speak with your fellow product enthusiasts at UTD. And then lastly, more recently, I have started conducting one-to-one mentorship sessions every weekend. So you can find time on my calendar using this link. A lot of I'm seeing some familiar names in audience. So yeah, like feel free to find time, 30 minutes on my calendar, and I'll be happy to like do any kind of one-to-one coaching or mentorship as needed. Cool.
Okay, so thank you so much, Parth, for sharing all these insights and telling us that you'll be happy to come back anytime to do another event with us. So before we wrap up, like just a couple of quick announcements regarding the product base. So this will be our last event for the semester, and we'll be like back with more events in spring 2022. So also like we have a couple of positions that will be open for next semester. So if anybody is like looking to join the product base in an officer position, so like just keep an eye out on our social media platforms for a poster regarding that. And with that, I think we are good for today. Thank you again, Parth, for joining us today and sharing all your valuable insights with us.
Happy to be here. Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Parth.
Thank you.